Let me paint you a picture that is more common than most people realize. Someone is sitting with 4 different debts. A credit card at 22% interest with a balance of $4,000, a personal loan at 14% with a balance of $8,000, a car loan at 7% with a balance of $12,000, and a student loan at 5% with a balance of $20,000. Total debt, $44,000. And every single month, the minimum payments on all 4 of those accounts go out, the balances barely move, and the interest keeps compounding in the background, quietly making the total amount owed larger and larger even as the payments go out the door. This is not a story about someone who made catastrophically irresponsible financial decisions. This is a story about a completely average financial situation that millions of people in their 20s and 30s find themselves in. Student loans from an education that was supposed to open doors. A car loan because public transit was not an option. A personal loan for a situation that required it. Credit card debt that accumulated during a period when income did not quite keep up with expenses. Ordinary debt from an ordinary life. And the problem is not the debt itself, although eliminating it is obviously the goal. The problem is the absence of a strategy. Because without a clear, structured approach to debt payoff, most people do exactly what feels intuitive. They pay minimums on everything, occasionally throw a little extra at whichever account is bothering them the most emotionally that month, and hope that somehow over time the balances decrease. What actually happens is that the interest compounds. The payoff timeline extends by years, and the total amount paid back across all those accounts ends up being dramatically higher than it needed to be. The 2 most widely used debt payoff strategies in personal finance, the Debt Avalanche and the Debt Snowball, both solve this problem, but they solve it differently. One is mathematically superior, the other is psychologically superior. And understanding exactly how each one works, where each one wins, and how to choose between them based on your specific situation is what this video is about. Welcome to Klux One Finance. Let us get into it. Let us start with the Debt Avalanche method because understanding it clearly is essential before we can meaningfully compare it to the alternative. The Debt Avalanche is based on a straightforward mathematical principle. Interest is the enemy of debt payoff. The faster you eliminate high-interest debt, the less total money you pay over the entire payoff period. Therefore, the most mathematically efficient strategy is to direct every available extra dollar toward the debt with the highest interest rate first, while paying only minimums on everything else. Here is how it works in practice. You list all of your debts. You identify the one with the highest annual percentage rate. Every extra dollar you can free up beyond your minimum payments goes toward that highest rate debt. When it is paid off, you take the money you were putting toward it, the minimum plus the extra, and redirect the entire amount toward the debt with the next highest interest rate. The payment amount you are directing at your target debt grows larger with each payoff, because each eliminated minimum payment gets rolled into the amount attacking the next target. This is the avalanche. Small at the top of the mountain, enormous by the time it reaches the bottom. Let us apply it to our example scenario with those 4 debts. Your highest interest rate debt is the credit card at 22% with a $4,000 balance. That becomes target number 1. The personal loan at 14% is next. The car loan at 7% is third. And the student loan at 5% is last. You pay minimums on the personal loan, the car loan, and the student loan. Every extra dollar, let us say $300 per month of extra payment capacity, goes toward the credit card. The credit card gets eliminated relatively quickly because the balance is manageable, and you are throwing $300 extra at it every month on top of the minimum. When it is gone, the minimum you were paying on it, plus the $300 extra, let us say the total is around $450 per month, all gets redirected to the personal loan. The personal loan now gets its minimum plus $450 extra every month. It disappears. Then that entire payment amount attacks the car loan, then the student loan. Each target falls faster than the one before it because the payment amount grows with each victory. The mathematical power of the debt avalanche is real and measurable. Over the entire payoff period, by targeting high-interest debt first, you pay less total interest than any other payoff sequence. In our example scenario, the debt avalanche versus simply paying minimums on everything could save several $1,000s in interest and cut years off the payoff timeline. The numbers are not debatable. On paper, the debt avalanche wins. Now let us talk about the debt snowball method, because understanding why it exists despite being mathematically inferior to the avalanche is the key to understanding which strategy actually works better for most human beings in the real world. The debt snowball was popularized by personal finance personality Dave Ramsey, and while the financial world sometimes dismisses it as mathematically inefficient, its effectiveness as a behavioral tool for people who struggle with debt payoff motivation is backed by real research. The debt snowball ignores interest rates entirely. Instead, you list your debts from smallest balance to largest balance and attack them in that order. Every extra dollar goes toward the smallest balance first, regardless of what interest rate it carries. When the smallest debt is eliminated, you roll the entire payment to the next smallest, and so on until all debts are gone. Applied to our example, the order would be completely different from the avalanche. The credit card at $4,000 is still first because it happens to be the smallest balance. But the personal loan at $8,000 is next, then the car loan at $12,000, then the student loan at $20,000. In our specific example, the first two payoff targets happen to be the same between the two methods, which is not always the case. Imagine a scenario where someone had a small medical bill at 5% interest as their lowest balance. The snowball would target that first. The avalanche would target it last because the interest rate is low. That divergence is where the mathematical difference between the methods becomes most significant. So why does the snowball work for so many people if the avalanche is clearly more efficient? The answer is psychology. Specifically, it comes down to two psychological mechanisms that are as real and powerful as any mathematical formula. The first is what behavioral economists call the unit bias. Our brain's tendency to perceive completion of a discrete task as deeply satisfying in a way that making progress toward a larger, more distant goal simply cannot match. When you eliminate a debt account entirely, even a small one, your brain registers a genuine win. A task has been completed. An account has been closed. The mental load of tracking and worrying about that debt disappears. That satisfaction is not trivial. Research published in the Journal of Marketing Research found that people who focused on paying off one debt at a time, rather than spreading extra payments across all debts, were more motivated, stayed on track longer, and were ultimately more likely to successfully eliminate their debt entirely. The second mechanism is momentum. The snowball method is designed to generate quick wins early in the payoff journey. When you eliminate your first small balance in month 2 or 3, that win creates emotional fuel for the next target, and the next. The experience of watching your debt count decrease from 4 accounts to 3 to 2 to 1 is powerfully motivating in a way that watching a large high-interest balance slowly decrease is not, even if the mathematical progress of the avalanche is greater. This is the dirty secret that pure mathematical finance advice often misses. The best debt payoff strategy is not the one that saves the most money on paper. It is the one you actually stick to for the entire duration of the payoff period. A strategy that saves you $4,000 in interest, but that you abandon after 3 months because you ran out of motivation has a real-world outcome of 0. A strategy that saves you $2,000 in interest, but that you execute consistently from start to finish has a real-world outcome of $2,000 in savings and complete debt elimination. The completed strategy wins every time over the abandoned superior strategy. Now let us run the real numbers on a side-by-side comparison so you can see exactly how the two methods compare in a concrete scenario. I want to use a simplified example that makes the math clear without getting lost in complexity. Suppose you have 3 debts: a credit card with a balance of $2,000 at 24% APR and a minimum payment of $50. A personal loan with a balance of $5,000 at 12% APR and a minimum payment of $110. A car loan with a balance of $10,000 at 6% APR and a minimum payment of $200. Total minimum payments are $360 per month. You have an extra $200 per month to put toward debt payoff, giving you a total debt payment of $560 per month. Under the debt avalanche, you target the credit card first because it has the highest interest rate. Your total payment toward the credit card is $250 per month. The $50 minimum plus $200 extra. The credit card is eliminated in approximately 9 months. At that point, you roll the $250 payment to the personal loan, which is now receiving $360 per month. The personal loan is eliminated in roughly another 12 to 13 months. Finally, the car loan receives the full $560 payment and is eliminated in the remaining period. Under the debt snowball, you also target the credit card first in this scenario because it happens to be the smallest balance. So in this particular example, the first payoff target is identical between the two methods. The difference emerges in how much interest accumulates on the higher rate debt during the months when you are targeting lower rate but larger balance debts under the snowball. In a scenario where the smallest balance is not the highest interest rate debt, the divergence in total interest paid between the two methods can be significant, often several hundred to several $1,000s, depending on the debt amounts and interest rates involved. To calculate the exact difference for your specific situation, I recommend using one of the many free online debt payoff calculators that will model both scenarios with your actual numbers. Enter all your balances, interest rates, and minimum payments. Specify your extra monthly payment amount, and the calculator will show you exactly how much each method costs in total interest and how long each one takes. That personalized comparison is far more useful than any general example I can walk through because it uses your actual numbers. Now, how do you choose between them? Here is the framework I would use. If you are a highly analytical person who is naturally motivated by numbers and math, who does not struggle with motivation as long as you can see objective progress being made, and whose highest interest rate debt also happens to have a manageable balance that can be eliminated relatively quickly, the debt avalanche is the right choice. You will stick to it. You will see the mathematical results, and you will come out ahead on total interest paid. If you are someone who struggles with maintaining motivation over long time periods, who has abandoned financial plans in the past because the early progress felt too slow or the goal felt too distant, whose largest high-interest debt also carries a very large balance that will take years to eliminate even with extra payments, the debt snowball may produce a better real-world outcome for you, even though it is less mathematically efficient, because the wins you generate early in the process will keep you engaged long enough to see the strategy through to completion. And then there is the hybrid approach, which I think is genuinely worth considering for many people, because it captures the mathematical advantage of the avalanche while incorporating the motivational benefits of the snowball in a targeted way. The hybrid works like this. If your highest interest rate debt and your smallest balance debt are the same account, you are already running both methods simultaneously. But if they are different accounts, look at whether the difference in balance between your smallest balance debt and your highest interest rate debt is significant. If your smallest balance debt can be eliminated in 3 months or less, even with just minimum payments, consider eliminating it first for the motivational win, then switching immediately to the avalanche sequence for all remaining debts. The psychological boost of that quick early win is real. The mathematical cost of prioritizing the small balance is minimal because it gets eliminated so quickly regardless. And the remainder of your payoff journey benefits from the full mathematical efficiency of the avalanche method applied to the debts that actually matter most. If your smallest balance debt would take 6 months or more to eliminate, and your highest interest rate debt is a different account, lean toward the avalanche. The mathematical cost of ignoring the high interest debt for 6 months or more while targeting a low interest small balance becomes meaningful, and the motivational boost of a win that is 6 months away provides less psychological benefit than one that arrives in 60 days. The final piece is building your actual payoff plan. And I want to be specific about what that means because a plan that exists only in your head is not really a plan. Write down every debt you have, pull your reports, find the errors, begin the sequence. 6 months from now, you will be looking at a fundamentally different number and a fundamentally different set of financial opportunities available to you because of it. Subscribe to Clux One Finance if you have not already. Hit the bell notification so you never miss a video, and I will see you in the next one.